Have you ever envisioned utopia? A world without pain, a world without problems, the easy life. Feeling the waves at your feet, feeling the cool breeze on your face. How do we get to utopia? Is it really possible, or is it a pipe dream? Here at the Anti-Establishment Show, I can guarantee you how you would not find utopia. By depending on the establishment. Utopia can never be found in someone or something other than yourself. Where does utopia live? It lives in your heart. It lives in your spirit and your soul. Utopia lives in your passion. For too long, we have depended on others for our joy and happiness. We wonder why our world is being turned upside down. The establishment. It is not that I believe that there's no place for the establishment. It is rather we have given the establishment too many places to dwell. Hence why we're out in society. That's why we are the Anti-Establishment Show. Here's the mission, if you choose to accept it. Educate yourself. Don't accept that you are less than. Stand up every day and fight. Claw for everything that you can. Not for the gain of some unknown entity. Fight for yourself, knowing you are more than enough. Fight for the ability to look in the mirror and know today I gave it all I had. There will be power in this world that will try to tell you that you're powerless, weak, not worthy, not worth anything, a waste of time and space. Some do it directly, some do it subtly, but they would do it nevertheless. Be greater. Strive to be greater today than you were yesterday. So are you with me? Are you ready to fight the power? You're probably wondering, who is this power that I speak of? Who is this unknown entity that we're fighting against? There are 12 different entities that are part of the establishment structure. Government and politicians, bureaucrats, corporations, media and entertainment, religion, psychology, education, health and pharmacy, technology, insurance, science, and lawyers. Through the course of the shows, we will touch on a part of all these establishments. Now, with the establishment, there's one thing that glues all of the establishment together. That is money. Money has underlying principles that hold the establishment together. If you have ever wondered how organizations can seem like they are working in unison without actually colluding, the answer is money. Let's get to the show. The revolution would not be televised. It's on the internet.
Johnny Hustle, Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle, Johnny Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny
Where
Hustle.
the lies and the
Johnny
truth
Hustle.
exposed.
Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show.
Where the truth and the lies exposed. This is the beginning of something different. We are on a mission to expose the evils of this human condition. Please sit and listen. Pay attention to all the signs that are written on the tablet of men's hearts. From the start, we were chosen to be, see things never meant to be seen, dream things never meant to be dreamed. So when you look at this world with all the hurt, people going berserk, loved ones on a t-shirt, children with pain in their eyes, fentanyl supplies, shatter homes, overdose, comatose, nowhere to go. We'll expose the truth.
Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny
Where the
Hustle.
truth and the
Johnny
lies
Hustle.
exposed.
Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle. Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show.
Where the lies
the
and the truth
Anti-Establishment
exposed.
Show.
It's the anti-establishment show to expose all the foes that are causing us woe. They're lurking behind the scenes, doing things unseen. Instant the American dream, we're filling the schemes to collapse a nation in imagination. No vision, all wishing for the days of old in attempts to corrupt our soul with wickedness untold. We'll watch it unfold, our eyes wide shut from the pain of the deranged. They're going insane, it's time to take control. Let them know how it's gonna go. The counterattack, Johnny Hustle, where you at? I wanna help you think carefully about the people and the groups that have a lot of power in our world. We'll look closely at the world, both the good and the bad things they do. We'll learn about them through stories and discussions so you can understand how they affect your life. I want to give you the tools to ask great questions, spot problems, and make better decisions. And remember, the revolution will not be televised. Fight the power. It's on the internet. USA, USA. That's why they want to stop. USA. USA, 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 ready? USA, 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 anti-establishment.
It's the Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle. It's the Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Who is the Anti-Establishment Show?
Yo, 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 this is your boy Johnny Hustle. Welcome to the Anti-Establishment Show. I appreciate you gracing me with your presence today. It's time to get active in the comments. Remember, ask not what the like button can do for you, rather ask what can you do for the like button. So smash that like button to get your boy in the algo. I'm everybody's favorite anti-hero, the Black Deadpool. I'm here to break down the fourth wall, baby. I have a jam-packed show for you today. Buckle up and get ready to take a ride, because we're going to be on one today. So, here's how the show's going to break down today. First, we're going to talk about tariffs. I have an interesting take on that, so it's going to be a little bit of twist to the tariff talk, but we're going to take it one step at a time. Then we're going to talk about Mr. Club Shay Shay himself and his latest scandal. So let's get into it. All right, now it's time for us to talk tariffs. This has been a huge topic lately, so let's go.
All the president, especially on the 18 important trading partners. We're doing bespoke deals, and he's going to be intimately involved.
Does anybody know what bespoke means as far as bespoke deals? Siri, what does bespoke mean?
Provoke means stimulate or give rise to
Nope.
a reaction or emotion. Typically
Siri,
strong or unwelcome.
what does bespoke mean?
Bespoke means made for a particular customer or user. Do you want to hear the next one?
No. All right. So bespoke means to tailor make for somebody specific.
In every one. 2 weeks ago, when we had the Japanese delegation come in, he started it in the Oval, and then we took them into the negotiating room. So he laid the groundwork.
It looks like the tariffs don't work crowd owes President Trump a big apology. Tariff revenue just smashed records, $15.9 billion collected so far this month alone. The White House says it's close to a trade deal, but in the meantime, the money is starting to roll in. Hello, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis. Joining me are my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Dagan McDowell, Brian Brenberg, and with us for both hours.
You know, she said that the tariffs are working. I still think it's a little bit too early to call whether this has been a victory or not.
Today, O'Leary Ventures Chairman Kevin O'Leary, great to have you as always. And the president could be putting all that tariff money to work. He says Americans making under $200,000 a year could see their income taxes slashed or even wiped out. Imagine that, Washington politicians funding tax cuts without borrowing from China. And while doomsayers scream about trade wars, companies like IBM are responding by announcing a $150 billion investment right here at home. We're talking about jobs, technology, manufacturing, all in America. And grocery chains like Albertsons are telling suppliers don't even think about jacking price.
You know, one thing I will say, there's been a lot of investment talk from Trump's cabinet, from Trump himself. I remember he had that one press conference with SoftBank about, what was it, a $500 billion investment. So investments are rolling in. That's for sure.
Is up. They're holding the line for consumers. Investors wait for progress on the big fish. That's China. Kevin, you say it is time to level the playing field. So I want to get your take.
Yeah, China's a different stack than all the other countries listed there because there's many issues beyond just tariffs. I've been saying consistently now for weeks, and I'm happy to see this getting some traction. I'm not the only voice on this. IP theft, we've got to deal with that. World Trade Organization's disputes, we have to start clearing the backlog there because many of them are U.S. disputes and they've never been answered. Access to their courts, got to deal with that. They have access to ours. The one that's really starting to look interesting that we should be focusing on, this issue around NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange, there are hundreds of Chinese companies that are no longer compliant. And with the new sheriff in town, with Paul Atkins, he's a China hawk. He's going to go line item by line item through those listings. If they are breaching the rules of the exchanges by not being compliant with GAAP, delistorama, right off the exchange.
All right. So this is getting a little bit off of tariffs, but we're going to keep listening to it because they're going to circle back. But when he said the thing with China is interesting with the current trade war we have going on with them, I mean, it really makes sense. Like, even when you talk about going to other countries, I've never been to other countries, but other countries don't have Ford. Like, even when you look at it on the movies and stuff, like, you very rarely see American car companies in their movies, in videos, whatever. But if you look at it, American TV or American commercials and stuff like that, American videos, you see foreign cars all over the place. So right now, you know, I'm personally, before I did research, I had mixed feelings about tariffs, but tariffs, I think, are really going to be important for our future moving forward. Not per se for the long term as far as having tariffs set at like ridiculous numbers like how they were. But if we maintain and keep like a 5 to 10% tariff, I'm all for that.
And once you get delisted off a U.S. exchange, it's not so easy to go anywhere else in the world and say, hey, I broke the law in the U.S., please list me on the London exchange. They say, no thanks, no thanks. So they got to resolve these issues el pronto. Otherwise, they're going to lose billions of market cap, just erased off the U.S. exchanges. And I'm good with all of it. Let's get to the table and start talking every one of these issues and the tariffs.
Hold on. I got to go back for a second. O'Leary is flexing on everybody. Oh, does my man have 2 watches on? Wait. Oh, let me replay that.
Easy to go anywhere else in the world and say, hey, I broke the law in the U.S., please.
Look at that. He got 2 watches on. It don't matter what time zone he's in. My man is a watch connoisseur for sure. That's hilarious.
Please list me on the London exchange. They say, no thanks, no thanks. So they got to resolve these issues el pronto. Otherwise, they're going to lose billions of market cap, just erased off.
And he's so coordinated right now. That just with the red handkerchief and then the red band on both watches. That's low key code.
U.S. exchanges, and I'm good with all of it. Let's get to the table and start talking every one of these issues and the tariffs. This time, China, you don't get away with the IP theft.
Yeah, and this morning, Scott Bess and Brian talking about the potential for deals with different countries that have come to the table. We've got full screen: Taiwan, Israel, Argentina, UK, EU, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea. The big one is India. We're going to probably start to hear some announcements pretty soon, it sounds like.
I would love to hear an announcement on India fast. I think that would send a huge shot across the bow for China, basically saying the U.S. wants to shift the center of gravity to India, away from China. That's why we're cutting a deal with them soon. But I like the sound of these other countries on the screen. Last week, at the end of the week, the Trump administration said, we've got a new kind of system for doing the tariff deals. Every week, we're going to bring in 6 countries for talks, then go to 6 the next week, then go to 6 a week after on kind of a...
Now, that's one thing that I do appreciate about Trump's administration, or just the things that are going on in general. I like more of you being able to be flexible and malleable than you having a great plan to start. Because the way this started off cattywampus. We're just going to keep it real. Like, it wasn't highly organized. It was organized, but it wasn't highly organized. But once Trump comes up with a system, then it seems like things start rolling. And, you know, it's like he hasn't pre-planned, this is what I'm going to do, or that's what I'm going to do, and already had that set in his mind. He had a overall vision, I feel like, of what he wanted, and then he let the things on the ground dictate, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, because this makes more sense now with this situation. Where if it would have went a different way, then he had a different system set up for that. So, you know, I'm really liking his flexibility. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but I appreciate the flexibility.
Rotating basis. I wish that would have been in place, you know, like a month ago, but I love the fact that they've got a system. They're identifying the things that they want to work on. So right now, Kevin wants to ramp it up with China. And that's fine, because Besson said China's in a different bucket. I want to see progress, and I think they're making progress. And if India's the first one done, and South Korea's the second one done, and Japan's the third one done, I think that's very good news.
I'm challenged.
You know, another thing that I kind of don't like is they're talking about trade deals as if trade deals are just some simple thing that happens overnight. That's typically not how trade deals work. If you look up throughout history how long it's taken to get trade deals created, most of the time it takes years and years, like 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. So the fact that we're even having a conversation about trade deals possibly being finalized in this brief of a time period is moving lightning fast. And I don't know if the lightning fast is good. Maybe for the short time it'll be good. But I don't know if for the long term it would be good. But we'll find out.
On what to ask you, Taylor, because there's a bunch of things I want to ask. But I heard you sort of commenting when Kevin was talking about the notion of delisting potentially Chinese companies here. We've always talked about access to this market as a privilege, one that doesn't belong to people who violate the rules in such a flagrant way.
I was joking because I just wrote one of my law school thesis, and I was thinking about you, Jackie, on Shein suing Temu here in the U.S. to take advantage of our Digital Markets Competition Authority under a copyright law. So again, you have two foreign Chinese companies here in the U.S. suing each other because they don't like the way the other one is doing copyright in the U.S. and the way the U.S. are buying consumers. So again, shows how integrated we all are and the way that they do have access to our laws and our technology. And Kevin, you talked about forced IP tech transfer and how if you want to go over to China, you were almost forced to do a joint venture with the government. If you're JP Morgan, you can't just go and open up a branch in China. You have to negotiate with the Chinese government. They have to be involved. That's the stuff that I think Americans, when we think about China, is different. So understand and can wrap their heads around when they just feel like they're playing a different game. We've talked about devaluing their currency, which is in a way not playing fair.
So that's one thing. If somebody in the comments can let me know, like what the dangers or why it's not fair for a country to devalue their currency, because that part I don't quite understand. Or if you can point me to a video and then I'll review it on here.
I think my only concern, Jackie, is when we think about raising revenue from tariffs, this comes back to me where then we can't think of it as zero tariffs and full fair trade. I mean, I don't think China ever plays fair. So we can't just go to the world and say everyone do 0% tariffs because we've talked about those non-tariff barriers. But if that's the end goal, then you can't raise revenue from it because revenue from it means that we're keeping 20, 30%, whatever it is, tariffs. So I think I'm still.
Now, after I did research, which we'll go through here in a little bit, but I completely disagree with what her statement is, that we can't raise revenue from tariffs.
Trying to figure out what's the goal and where do we end up in all of this?
Yeah. I've said this before. I think I brought it up Friday. If you've read what President Trump has said in the past, and I'm not talking about that speech he gave in 2018 in Charleroi, Canada, he wants to keep a tariff in place on every nation with which we trade. And so he said, just to let's do the math on the numbers and put them in perspective. He made a comment about revenue from the tariffs with it coming in, income taxes for Americans who make under $200,000 a year will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. He has said things like that in the past. So this is rough math. The cutoff for the top 10%.
Before she finishes saying that, I don't think that we in America truly understand how the money aspect works and how much losing all of these small businesses has truly affected our day-to-day lives as citizens. Like, just take, for example, let's say you have one small business in your area. They sell suits. And that suit maker gets his supplies from China. And he's paying $1 per yard or something like that for material. Where someone next door would be willing to sell him supplies for $2. Well, because of that little bit of savings he's gonna get from the suit maker in China that would bring him more profitability, he doesn't buy from the guy next door who's selling for $2 because he's paying double the price per yard. But if he bought from the guy next door, that guy could also purchase something from somebody in his area, and then the money begins to circulate within that condensed area. But because the suit maker doesn't start the process of purchasing from within his local area, that money has now left his community, his city, his state, the country, and has gone to a benefit of a whole nother country where his dollar is now circulating in China. And this is one of the things that I don't think people understand about purchasing in your own area, purchasing locally, supporting small businesses, because that $1 will continue to circulate within your community. And the circulation within your community is important. But let's continue.
So the bottom 90% of taxpayers in this country, that is roughly $180,000. So let's use that as the cutoff point. They pay, the top 10% pay 72% of the taxes. So you've got to come up with at least 28% of the total individual income tax revenue as an offset through tariff revenue. If you're going to have the bottom 90% pay no income taxes, you're just make the assumption we're not going to get a nickel from any of those taxpayers. We're talking about we're going to need annually $600 billion in revenue. Mm-hmm. So based on the math of, oh boy, we're making $16 billion in April in tariff revenue, that works out annualized to $192 billion per year. We as a nation will need more than 3 times that amount.
So right now she's talking about how the money, if Trump was to cut the income taxes, and we're going to get there. This is very important. This is specifically why I picked this video. She's talking about how the United States has to replace the income taxes from the bottom 90%. And the bottom 90% pays 28% of the income taxes. So the revenue has to replace that amount of money.
If you need $600 billion in revenue, you're going to need an across-the-board tariff on every dollar of goods imported into the United States of 18%. So is that what the president is talking about?
Right.
Well,
that is not sustainable. That will never happen.
But my understanding is that
18%?
he does envision having in place a tariff. And broadly speaking, from an economic perspective, it encourages work if you tax consumption. And let's just say it, this is a consumption tax. It is a tax on things that we consume that are bought overseas. And it encourages work. And it encourages us to work to make things here in the U.S. But
I'm concerned about what I would call class warfare. When you take a huge segment of society and say, you don't have to pay tax, we're going to put that burden on either tariffs or the rest of the population here. Very uncool. Because all of a sudden, you're not contributing. You're not helping anybody.
I will say, I like Kevin O'Leary a lot. And I like probably 80% of his takes. I don't agree with this class warfare statement. I think that it's a stretch to say it's class warfare. Like I get where he's going with this, but this isn't class warfare.
But yeah, you're not paying any tax whatsoever. I'd rather just see a flat tax of 19% or whatever it's got to be, and everybody pays it. It's not right. And tariffs, by the way, should be strategic. Not every country should we tariff. We may want to say to ourselves, China is the enemy, and they are. I don't care what anybody says. We need to spend billions defending the northern border of North America. That's actually Canada. We shouldn't tariff anything in Canada because they have all the stuff the Chinese have, the minerals, the precious metals, the resources, all the crap that we're buying from China. We don't need to if we got to deal with Canada. Why would we tariff that? Potash. Why do we want to tariff potash? Saskatchewan has all the potash. So I say zero tariffs on the strategic. And if you're not playing ball with us like India, okay, whack them with tariffs. But now when I hear India, and I love your idea. You know why the Indian deal is best first? You get to sell a Ford 150 into the rural area of India that you've never been able to sell in 20 years. 110% tariffs. I love that deal. So I say let's get more.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't care who they drop the tariff deal for first or the trade deal for first. As long as there's a trade deal, that's what I care about. And I care about us getting jobs here in America as quickly as possible.
Strategic. Because Bessett said the same thing. Let's look at everyone on a bespoke basis. I like that. Now we're starting to fine-tune this tariff stuff. And that's why the market's already gained back 50% of what it lost on April 3rd. Today, we're 50% back.
I still believe that on the table, that what they're trying to negotiate away are the egregious tariffs on the side of the trading partners and non-tariff barriers and currency manipulation. I still believe there will be some small tariff in place with every
I think
trading
you're right.
partner.
It has to be if their model is going to work. Otherwise, to your point, the math
It might not be
definitely doesn't.
18%, but I bet you it's 10.
Yeah.
I'm about to delve deeper into this. I have a whole slideshow for you. So this is going to be amazing. Now we're going to talk about tariffs. And we're about to talk about why tariffs are important and how it's important for the health of America. And this is probably going to be a completely different spin, but this is where I think all of this tariff talk is actually heading to. All right, so what are tariffs? Tariffs is a tax on goods imported into the country. So somebody brings something in and a tariff adds more to it, like, oh, your goods cost X amount, we need a percentage of that. And typically those are paid by the actual company. So why are tariffs used? They're used to generate revenue, protect domestic industries, like how Trump keeps talking about the steel industry, aluminum industry, and other industries. Like one of the things, the car industry specifically, because he's trying to protect those industries because they're important industries for America. So who pays the tariffs? Initially, it's the importers. So whatever company, remember when I gave the example of the suit company, the guy, the suit maker, when he would receive his products from China, right now there's 145% tariff on it. So if he was bringing in 1 yard worth of material, then he would be paying 145% on that. So it would be like $2.45 per yard. If my math is right. Could be wrong. Don't judge me. So some of the potential negative effects is that it could start trade wars, which is literally happening right now. We're in a trade war where global trade has been disrupted. You can have a lower availability of goods, which is also happening right now. And I haven't really personally, I haven't seen the increased cost of like goods right now as far as stuff that I'm going to buy. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. It just might not be affecting the things I'm purchasing. All right. That's my dog barking. He is showing me no love right now. I had a whole conversation with him about I'm recording. He told me in this moment he doesn't care. So, what are the positive effects? It supports domestic industries. So, once again, the car industry, which is, I think, one of the things that he's really, really focusing on. And he's making an effort to bring in the chips industry back to America, because we used to have like 2 or 3 computer chip industries. I remember Intel was one. I can't remember what the other one was, but like the Dell computers, those used to be made right here in the United States. I don't know if they still are, but I know they used to be. All right, so this is the slide that I wanted us to get to. So the tariff impact on consumers. With tariffs, there's going to be a 1% increase in tariffs for every 0.1% increase in consumer costs. So the tariffs that we have right now, it's a 10% tariff across the board. So let's just take the iPhone, for example. The iPhone is $1,000. Let's say that all of the iPhones are being imported in. Then that means the iPhone would be like $1,100. Now, we're about to make a quick detour. So I just want y'all to buckle up and be ready. So, I told y'all to buckle up. This is where we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of everything. And this is going to explain why the tariffs, after I did this research, this is going to explain why tariffs are so important. But first, I want us to just watch this little video.
No, I seriously think about this every single day, and I'm sorry if I sound stupid. If somebody has $500 and they've already paid taxes on it and they give it to me, so now just because it goes from them to me, I also have to pay taxes on it, even though they just did. And then not only that, but anytime I spend one of those $500, I'm going to also pay another tax fee on whatever item I'm buying. And then whoever I bought the item from will have to pay taxes on the money they just earned from what I bought.
Yep.
So, like, so every single dollar, like, if $1 is 100 cents, hold on. Just forget it. No, I seriously.
All right. So we just saw the girl in the video about the taxes and how she was so confused. And it was so confusing and so complex to her that she was like, actually, never mind. I thought I wanted to answer to this, but now as I'm thinking about it, like, no, I'm so good. There's a reason for that. So let's go ahead and delve into the history of income taxes. Right. So, how did income tax start? So, during the Civil War, when we had to raise all of this money in order to pay the troops and everything like that, our fiscal budget at the time was too limited. So there was definitely a need for a direct tax at that time. So Abraham Lincoln instituted the Revenue Act of 1861. And this increased tariffs, imposed new ones, and it provided a direct tax on land and levied the first national income tax. So at the end of the income tax in 1872, the government was like, whoa, we got to get this back. Like, this level of power is incredible. Because we have to remember, money is only a placeholder for human effort. or at least in my view, that's what money is that the amount of effort you put in, every dollar is a show of how much human effort you've accumulated. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be your own human effort, but just effort in general. So, after we got through with the Civil War and everything, and the income tax expired, then the government was like, oh, we got to get back to this. So there was a court case in 1881. It was Springer versus the United States. And with Springer versus the United States, surprisingly, the Supreme Court unanimously decided, I had to say that word slow because sometimes I struggle with the unanimously, but I'm feeling magnanimous today. So the Supreme Court 9-0 voted that law was constitutional because it wasn't a direct tax. In order for something to be considered a direct tax, it had to either be either someone's income or not someone's income, I'm sorry. It had to be real estate or a capitalization. So then later another act came called the Wilson and Gorman Tariff Act. And this one was passed in 1894. So the regular citizens were paying income tax. And the citizens were saying, this isn't fair. The wealthy aren't paying their fair share. How come we have to pay all these taxes and the wealthy aren't paying their fair share of the cost of government? So the lawsuit was filed, and the Supreme Court came down with a 5-4 decision that Pullock v. Farmer Loan and Trust. I wonder if those are the farmers people for farmers insurance. Anyway, so Pullock was like, they're not paying their fair, this was a shareholder. Pullock was a shareholder, and he was like, my company shouldn't have to pay any income tax to the government. So then the courts decided, yes, this is unconstitutional because a direct tax is on like livestock. Like they expanded what direct taxes were. So the populists and the progressives at that time period were so angry and upset about that. So they were like, how are we going to get this system to be fair? Because it seems like the Supreme Court are just taking up for the wealthy. So then you had the Payne and Aldrich Tariff Act, which then caused the lawsuit Flint versus Stone Tracy Company. But in between that time period of the loss, William Taft was like, hey, here's how we need to structure this next bill so that it will pass, but it can also stand up to the Supreme Court. So he was like, instead, let's make a corporate tax And a corporate tax isn't a direct tax. That's just the cost of doing business in the United States. So that's one tax. And then on the flip side, let's start moving towards doing a constitutional amendment, because we got to get to the bag. Like, we definitely have to get to the bag. And so, well, this is what I just talked about. So I just want to take a quick pit stop to say here's how the amendment ratification process works. You have a proposal, there's 2 paths for ratification, and then once it's ratified, there's not really a specific time limit, but typically the Congress sets like a 7-year time frame. And the 16th Amendment passed, or it passed all of the ratification process. So the 16th Amendment reads, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes on incomes from whatever sources derived, without apportionment among the several states and without regard to any census or enumeration. Oh, so apportionment. I forgot to say what apportionment was. One of the hurdles that is in the Constitution that prevented a direct tax was apportionment. So apportionment is each state has to pay whatever percentage of their census population is shown. So let's say like California, I think they have like 10-12% of the population. So California would have been responsible for 10 to 12% of whatever the taxes are. And like a state like Alaska has like 1%. So they would have only been responsible for 1% of the taxes. So the reason why this is important is because let's say I'm a billionaire, like, and I'm making $1 billion a year of just straight income. Well, if I live in California, I'm going to have to pay a higher level of the taxes because California has a higher level of the population. Where if I live in Alaska only has 1% of the population, so I would be able to keep more money if I lived in Alaska instead of California. And this is just the brief history. 1861, first income tax. Then 1872 it expired. 1881 Supreme Court opposed the income tax constitutionality. 1894 income tax included in the Tariff Act. Then 1895 Congress strikes down the income tax. 1909, I don't know. I feel like I just glitched for a second there. But 1909, corporate excise tax was enacted. And then 1913, the 16th Amendment passed, allowing income tax without apportionment. And then comes the Revenue Act of 1913, which was passed under President Woodrow Wilson. Oh, and might I add, just on a quick side note, like this in the Senate, they passed during the ratification process, they passed it unanimously, 77-0. In the House, I think it was 314 or 18. I think it was 318 and 14 the Senate. So it was really bad. Now let me. Okay. So before we go there, I want to show you this. Okay. Let me make that bigger. All right. Boom. Oh, well, let me make it smaller. Okay. Make it a little smaller. All right, there we go. Okay, let me make it a little smaller. All right. So, this is prior to 1913. What percentage of income came from each one of these sections? So, from 1776 to 1913, individual income tax was 0%, except for the temporary Civil War tax. The corporate tax only existed from 1909 to 1913, so that was 0%. Payroll tax didn't exist. The excise tax changed and fluctuated, but typically it was 10 to 50%, depending on what the policy was and the economic condition. So tariffs was the dominant source of income. And then you had less than 1% for land sales and fees and stuff like that. Now, after 1913, completely different world. So it started off 1915. It was about 6% income tax. The corporate tax was about 6%. No such thing as payroll tax. The excise tax and customs were both like right there neck and neck. 1934, same thing. It went up 15%, or well, 14%. The corporate income tax was 12%, and then y'all can see the numbers there. Once you get down to the 2000s, you can see pretty much all the government's income started coming from the citizens. So, remember when I was giving you that example about the suit guy? Oh, well, hold on. Before I do that, let me show you one other thing. But now the customs, which is tariffs, are now all, if you look right here, are all just at 6%. And that includes other things too. That's not all just tariffs. Where it used to be, it had its own slot. And if you look at 1945, which I believe was after World War II, if I'm not mistaken, look how low it dropped. 0.8%, 1.3%, 1.4%, 1%. Like, so it got to the point where oh, you know what, it's not even worth counting these taxes in a column of their own. Now we're just going to include them in other because it's such a small portion. Okay. And this just shows the income tax rates. So the bottom 1% or the bottom rate was 1% 1913. 1918, 6%. Then 31 years later, it's all the way up to 23%. The top rate went all the way up to 94%. And you can just see all throughout history how high the income taxes were. Until we get to present day, which is 37%. All right. So, oh, wait, let me go back right here real quick. So, remember when I was talking about the example of the suit guy where he was purchasing something from someone else from China, but in this example, let's say he purchases from the person that's right next door to him, and he's buying this fabric from them for $2 a yard. So he's getting this fabric. When he purchases the fabric, he has to pay taxes on whatever, the guy he's purchasing it from has to pay taxes on the income he gets. He has to pay taxes on the corporate tax for the income he gets. If he has any employees, he has to pay taxes on the payroll. And then the people he's paying are paying taxes for the income that he's already been taxed for. So this is how money gets inflated. When the value isn't changing, but it's losing value. But we'll come back to that at a later time. But that's important to this conversation. All right. So now, all right. So now we're back to the impact that tariffs are gonna have on me as a consumer. And listening, because you remember when we played the clip, maybe I should go back and play that part real quick. It was towards the end.
And broadly speaking, from an economic perspective, it encourages work if you tax consumption. And let's just say it, this is a consumption tax. It is a tax on things that we consume that are bought overseas. And it encourages work. And it encourages us to work to make things here in the U.S. But I didn't.
I'm concerned about what I would call class warfare. When you take a huge segment of society and say, you don't have to pay tax, we're going to put that burden on either tariffs or the rest of the population here. Very uncool. Because all of a sudden, you're not contributing. You're not helping anybody out. You're not paying any tax whatsoever. I'd rather just see a flat tax of 19% or whatever it's got to be, and everybody pays it. It's not right. And tariffs, by the way, should be strategic. Not every country should we tariff. We may want to say to ourselves, China.
Okay. So, what they're talking about there is the end result of Trump wants to get rid of taxes for Americans making under $200,000 a year. And O'Leary is saying this is class warfare. The problem is we shouldn't be paying taxes in the first place. There should not be such a thing as income tax. And once we allow the government to pass the 16th Amendment, because see, a lot of things that happen in society, it starts off with, oh, this is to punish the rich, or this is to punish some privileged category of human being. And then when it's all over, it doesn't just touch the rich. It also touches the regular people. It touches the regular human being who is out here living in the world day by day and is just completely overwhelmed by the amount of taxes that are being taken out. So the average income in America, if I'm not mistaken, is like $54,000 a year. So imagine if you were working your job and you got to bring home $54,000 every year. Like, that's what you get to bring home. Would that $54,000 be worth paying an extra, let's say $200-300 for an iPhone? Would you be willing to pay $300 extra for an iPhone if you're getting to bring home an extra $37,000 a year? Well, excuse me, that's the wrong number. You're getting to bring home an extra, what, like $18,000 a year. Is $300 a year worth it? Me personally, I feel like it is. I'm thinking that maybe as a society, if Trump is saying he's trying to eliminate the income tax, regardless what party you're in, that should be something we get behind. Because money is power. Remember, when we started this conversation, when I was setting the tone for what we were going to talk about today, one of the things that I talked about was all the establishment revolves around money and the principles of money. So the more money you're able to keep, which is your blood, sweat, and tears, the more that you're able to keep, the more power that you can wield. The more strength you'll be able to show. So, I could go further, deeper into this, but I think this is a great stopping point. And there's going to be more tariff talk. It doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon. But I want you to go out and do your own research. Don't just take the things that I've said and be like, oh my goodness. Like, educate yourself. It's important. And we've ran out of time today. So we'll have to pick up on the Shannon Sharpe thing next week. Thank you for coming and listening to me. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you. I'm very gracious. I have a lot of gratitude that you made it this far. Even if you didn't make it this far, you won't hear this anyway. But I appreciate it anyhow. Thank you very much for joining the Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Peace. The revolution won't be televised. It'll be on the internet. Let's go! So different. These people, they don't never listen. They on a mission to deceive, but I breathe on the track. They like, who is that? Hey, Johnny Hustle, you know where that? Life is like a paradise. Get it, paradise. Roll snake guys one time, you might lose your life. So I fight the power to be. Fight the power you see. Ballot, order, bullet. I have a dream that I ain't never seen, but I know that I can do anything. Destroy whatever trap you put in front of me. That ain't nothing to me. Y'all just front of me. Political speak, PC in operation, interfacing throughout the nation, monitoring everything you're saying. Rage against the machine, shadow bang, shadow realm. Time to do. Who are you? Red pill with a blue pill. Dot matrix. Decipher the signs. Secret society still on the rise. My alter psychology lies. MK Ultra is the culture. ADHD, how they play me like a fiddle was another riddle. Propaganda that the media plays. Airwaves that have nothing to say except how to keep us enslaved. With access that caused death and this pharmaceutical craze. Did you check your diabetes today? Stuck in the Dr. Doom loop. It would be fantastic for him if I disappeared, but I show him my strength. Stretch my arms out, give him a lift. Set the institutions aflame. We're the misfits with a mission to end all the struggle and pain. I can't stand the rain on my window pane. Just another day. At least that's what the news say. Young kid with a Uzi, sipping on some juice. Hope they don't choose me. No, they just lost me. Look at what it cost me. But we're the anti-establishment, and we won't stand for this ever.
It's the Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle. It's the Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle, Johnny Hustle Anti-Establishment Show. Who is the Anti-Establishment Show?